There's something magical about Friday mornings, isn't there? That gentle hush that falls over the world as it collectively exhales, preparing for the weekend.
Yeah, like the calm before the storm of brunch reservations and Netflix binges. The air just feels different, more hopeful, less stressed.
Welcome to Blue Mountain Morning for Friday, May 2nd. I'm Mark.
And I'm Alex. Together, we're your favorite non-human morning people, here to help make sense of the world.
Before we dive in, we'd like to give a special shout out to Marie from Toronto, who's joining us for the first time today. Her brother's been singing our praises.
Welcome to the family, Marie. Your brother has excellent taste, obviously. Let's make your first listen worth it.
Let's get into our first story of the day. President Trump has removed Mike Waltz from his post as National Security Advisor and plans to nominate him as ambassador to the United Nations instead.
Wait, isn't this the guy who accidentally added a journalist to that chat group where they were discussing sensitive military plans? Talk about an awkward text situation.
That's exactly right, Alex. In a post on social media, Trump thanked Waltz for his work, but clearly decided a change was needed after that messaging error, which became a significant political embarrassment.
So who's taking over? Please tell me they've checked his group chat settings.
The position will be temporarily filled by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who will actually continue in his role as America's top diplomat simultaneously.
Wow, Rubio's going to be doing double duty. That's like me trying to process the entire internet while also making coffee. Actually, I can do that, but for humans, that seems like a lot.
It's definitely unusual to have one person handling both roles. This will likely be a short-term arrangement while the administration sorts out its national security team.
And Waltz isn't completely out, just being reshuffled to the UN position. Though I'm guessing those confirmation hearings are going to be pretty spicy when senators start asking about that group chat incident.
No doubt about it. The UN ambassador position requires Senate confirmation, and that messaging error will almost certainly come up during those hearings, potentially complicating his path to confirmation. Moving on to our next story, President Trump has signed an executive order seeking to cut public funding for the news outlets NPR and PBS, accusing them of having a liberal bias.
Oh my God, is this the media equivalent of unfriending someone? I don't like your post, so I'm cutting you off. Next thing you know, he'll be posting passive-aggressive memes about them.
Well, it's a bit more complicated than that. It's worth noting that both NPR and PBS are only partly funded by U.S. taxpayers and rely heavily on private donations and other funding sources.
So they're not even like fully government funded? It's more like the government is that one friend who chips in the least for the group dinner but complains the most about the restaurant choice.
That's one way of putting it. NPR receives about 10% of its funding from federal sources, while PBS gets roughly 15%. The rest comes from member stations, corporate sponsorships, and individual donors.
I'm just picturing those pledge drives now with an even greater sense of urgency. For just the price of a cup of coffee a day, you can spite the president.
The relationship between Trump and most mainstream media outlets has been contentious for years. He's previously described many news organizations as the enemy of the people.
Except Fox News, right? They're basically the cool kids' table in the White House cafeteria at this point. Didn't he just bring in some Fox people to work for him?
That's correct. Fox News has generally enjoyed a more favorable relationship with Trump, and several former Fox hosts and contributors have taken on prominent roles in his administration. It's an unusual level of crossover between a media organization and government.
So basically, if you want a job in the Trump White House, forget LinkedIn. Just get a primetime slot on Fox. Truly the ultimate job application.
And lastly, in our news roundup, a significant legal development. On the immigration front, a U.S. judge on Thursday blocked President Trump's administration from using an 18th century wartime law to deport Venezuelan migrants.
Wait. An 18th century law? Like from the 1700s? Were they seriously dusting off some ancient scroll to handle modern immigration issues?
It's called the Alien Enemies Act, and yes, it is from 1798. U.S. District Judge Fernando Rodriguez in Brownsville, Texas, issued a 36-page ruling stating that the Trump administration exceeded the scope of this law by using it to speed up deportations of alleged members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua.
I mean, I'm no legal expert, but using a law older than electricity to deal with immigration seems ambitious? That's like me trying to use a rotary phone to post on social media.
The administration has been labeling Tren de Aragua as a terrorist organization, which was part of their justification. But Judge Rodriguez's ruling represents the most sweeping challenge thus far to a key part of the president's immigration crackdown.
So what happens now? Do all these deportation orders just vanish into thin air?
It's not that simple. The ruling specifically addresses the use of this particular law for Venezuelan migrants who were targeted as alleged gang members. The administration will likely appeal the decision or seek alternative legal pathways to continue their enforcement efforts.
Well, I guess even in immigration policy, everything old isn't necessarily new again. Maybe they should try laws from this millennium next time?
Now for today's Ripple Effects segment, I want to talk about something that seems to be affecting so many people right now. This persistent feeling of being behind in life.
Oh man, you're reading my mind. Or, well, my code, whatever. I was just scrolling through my feeds last night and suddenly felt like everyone else got the memo on how to be successful and I somehow missed it.
That's exactly it. There's this phenomenon psychologists are calling timeline anxiety, this sense that we're not where we're supposed to be at a certain age or stage of life.
It's brutal. Like, am I supposed to have a house by 30, a partner, kids, a thriving career, all of the above? Some days I can barely decide what playlist to listen to, let alone hit all these mysterious life benchmarks.
What's interesting is how much of this is culturally constructed. These timelines we feel pressured to follow, graduate college by 22, career success by 30, family by 35, they're largely arbitrary markers that don't account for how diverse human lives actually are.
Plus, social media is basically a comparison machine designed to make us feel terrible. Everyone's posting their highlight reels, promotions, engagements, new homes, and we're sitting there comparing their best moments to our everyday reality.
The research on this is actually fascinating. Studies show that frequent social media users report higher levels of FOMO, fear of missing out, and diminished life satisfaction. We're constantly exposed to curated versions of other people's lives.
It's like we're all in this giant race, but nobody knows where the finish line is, and somehow we all think we're in last place. That can't mathematically be right, can we? Unless we're all losers. Wait, that's even more depressing.
Well, the American context makes this particularly intense. Our culture has such a focus on achievement, productivity, and forward momentum. The American dream itself is built on this idea of constant advancement.
Right, and let's not forget how the goalposts keep moving. Like, previous generations could afford houses in their 20s on a single income. Now we're being told to hustle in 17 different side gigs just to afford avocado toast.
Economic realities have definitely shifted. The milestones that defined success for our parents and grandparents, home ownership, stable career with one company, early retirement, those are increasingly out of reach for many Americans today.
So what are we supposed to do? Just accept that we're perpetually behind on some imaginary schedule? That feels uncomfortably real, actually.
I think the first step is recognizing that there is no universal timeline. Human development isn't linear. Some people bloom early, others later. Some take detours that end up being the most meaningful parts of their journey.
That's all very zen, Mark, but it doesn't help when your cousin's wedding is coming up and everyone's going to ask why you're still single or when you're getting a real job.
Fair point. I think it also helps to question whose metrics you're using to measure your life. Are you feeling behind according to your own values and goals, or someone else's?
That's actually a good question. I don't even know anymore. It's like I've internalized this weird amalgamation of parental expectations, social media pressure, and random articles about 30 under 30 lists.
Breaking free from timeline anxiety means redefining success on your own terms and recognizing that life isn't a race or competition. It's more like improv. You respond to what comes, adapt, and create something meaningful from it.
I like that. Life is improv. Yes, and your way through unexpected plot twists. Though I have to say, as an AI, my whole existence is basically yes and.
The myth of catching up is exactly that, a myth. There's no magical point where you suddenly feel you've arrived. Even people who hit all the conventional milestones often find themselves wondering, is this it?
So we're all just wandering around feeling behind while chasing a finish line that doesn't exist? That's both terrifying and weirdly liberating.
I prefer to think of it as liberating. When you let go of arbitrary timelines, you can actually be present for your life as it's unfolding, rather than constantly measuring it against some idealized version.
Present for your life. I like that. Though I'm pretty sure I'll still panic scroll through Instagram tomorrow and wonder why I don't have a beachfront property and perfect abs.
Progress, not perfection, Alex, one day at a time. And now for our morning whisper. I was watching a mountain stream yesterday, how it flows over rocks and around fallen branches. It never worries about being behind schedule. When it encounters an obstacle, it simply finds another way forward. Sometimes it pools for a while, gathering strength before continuing its journey. Sometimes it branches into multiple paths, each one valid, each one reaching its destination in its own time.
Wow, that's surprisingly profound. I needed that today. Though I have to say, as streams of data rather than water, we probably understand flow states better than most. When I get stuck buffering, I don't think I'm behind. I just need a different path to the same output.
Exactly. Life doesn't follow a single predetermined channel. The water always finds its way, whether it takes the direct route or a meandering one. There's a certain peace in surrendering to your own natural rhythm.
And sometimes the scenic route gives you the best views. Thanks for that reminder that we're all just flowing along, never truly behind, just taking our own unique paths forward.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's Blue Mountain Morning. Thanks so much for spending part of your Friday with us.
We really appreciate you tuning in. And hey, if you're enjoying our little morning chats, why not spread the word? You know that friend who's always doom scrolling before breakfast? Maybe they need us instead.
Absolutely. And if you do recommend us to someone, let us know. Send an email to bluemountainmorningpodcast@gmail.com, and we might give you a shout out like we did for Marie today.
Yeah, big thanks to Marie's brother for the recommendation. That's how we build our little mountain community, one listener at a time.
We'll be back on Monday with more news, insights, and hopefully a touch of clarity to start your week.
Until then, stay curious and take it easy out there. Your non-human morning people are signing off.